They wanted to know what brought him to where he is now. So, Gil, go ahead. Just tell us what you want to share.
This is the TRT and Hormone Optimization YouTube channel. And if you want to learn all about the science-based information on this topic, consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and you'll be on your way.
And before we start, if you want to get some TRT and hormone optimization merchandise, the link is in the description of this video, and during the month of January, use the code NY21 to get 21% off each order. Welcome to the channel and Happy New Year for everyone, and welcome Gil.
Hey, Happy New Year. Thank you as always.
Best wishes for all, and let's make it a year full of knowledge on TRT and hormone optimization. Today I would want to start by asking Gil to talk a bit about himself. That was a question on YouTube or in one of the forums. They wanted a bio video about Gil. They wanted to know what brought him to where he is now. So Gil, go ahead. Just tell us what you want to share.
Okay. My bio is fairly lackluster. It's extremely unimpressive, if you will, from a credential standpoint. And I've never been one to be impressed by pieces of paper. I have hired many people over the years in business, and some of the most credentialed people turned out to not be the greatest coworkers. And some of the people who literally had nothing more than barely a high school diploma turned out to be very enthusiastic, intelligent, hardworking, and loyal employees. So I am not one to put a lot of stock into academic accolades per se. With that, I would never take away from it. It does show obviously resilience and a desire to study. With that said, I do have academic, accomplishments, which are probably pretty standard, on the average. My initial degree back in the 90s, over 20 years ago, was a Bachelor of Science degree. Had two majors and a minor. It was mostly international business and finance with a minor in economics. So it was a business-based degree with science integrated because it was a Bachelor of Science, which started out, I was initially considering a medical career, and I was starting out with some pre-med, bios, chem, psych, etc. And then midway shifted into business because that's just the way the world was going back in the 90s. Later on in life, I was always interested in science and math. I mean, those are two areas that, even though I wasn't a great student in my youth, those are two areas I excelled in naturally. I see the world in numbers. I see numbers very well and very easily, and I can compute and calculate things very easily. So I love numbers. I like playing around with numbers. To me, math and science are two subjects that are absolute. They don't care about your opinions. They're not subjective. Sure, things can be interpreted, but at the end of the day, our interpretation or just our way of trying to make sense of something that is absolute anyway. We can discuss philosophy, world history, and everything else and come up with our own hypotheses. When you come down to math and science, it is what it is. 2 + 2 always equals 4. And it's in every language, and it doesn't matter what your opinion is or my opinion, and we can debate it, but it's still going to equal 4. And science is pretty much the same way. The only difference is we haven't quite discovered every aspect of it. So there's a lot of research and digging to be done, and I thoroughly enjoy the learning aspect because I feel that we learn throughout life until the day we die. The individual who feels that they know everything is in a regression phase because they're shut off to learning, and they are now on the way down because you will forget things that you don't use. And if you don't constantly replace and enhance and polish information, then you're going to essentially enter regression. I learned from my children, 7 and 12-year-olds. I learn from them every day. I learn from every individual and every encounter I have, and you have to be open to learning. Later in life, when I got involved in the medical industry, first on a consulting basis, through my own independent research, specifically on fitness and nutrition, which then later on led into the hormones. I was contracted by various fitness facilities and wellness professionals in the fitness industry to do some consultations and to do some seminars for their member bases, as well as for business owners, to teach them how to relay information better and how to put together programs for their clients. And later on, that went into the medical field by medical providers asking for help with hormones, which led me into my own industry of hormone clinics. And for no reason other than self-gratification and a push from the providers which we've hired, I went back to study myself later on in life to pursue a DNP, which is a doctorate in nursing practice, which is essentially a elevated or doctorate level nurse practitioner, because nurse practitioners are a master's degree, and then you can obtain a doctorate in nurse practitioner, and that is essentially what that is. So that has to start with nursing school, which is an RN route, and then later you go into the MSN and DNP. So that is what led me later in life to pursue, and I'm still in the process of obtaining that DNP as we speak. So I still have a little bit to go on that. I'm in the middle of the road, and I'm thoroughly enjoying that. Again, there's no financial gain or necessity on my behalf, because we do hire providers, which we train, and they run with what we do, and we do assist with patients. But I just do this for self-gratification, and I thoroughly enjoy the whole research process. So I know there's been some talks in some of the forums, I have no medical background, knowledge, etc. For starters, I will say that none of what we do here for hormones, both in the clinic and on the videos, is ever learned in any medical institution. It has never been in a classroom. It has never been in any clinical experience. And in fact, some of my professors have actually come and inquired about some of these aspects themselves. So I can assure you that nothing that we do in these videos has anything to do with med school or otherwise. With that said, it is factually incorrect to say that I have no medical training, because as I said, I did attend an RN program, which is leading me into the MSN/DNP route as we speak. And I've had that going for a bit now. So, and then several years in clinic experience with thousands of patients hands-on with our providers. So, like I said, it's not, I do not have an MD. I'm not a medical doctor, and I do not prescribe medication personally yet, nor will I probably ever, even once I do graduate, because again, it's not my job. It's not my role within my practice. I do hire healthcare providers to do that, but I do act as a consultant to them, and that is where my passion is. It is the research and educational portion, and maybe one day I will enter the education arena within medicine, because I do enjoy providing information more than I do treating patients one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, Gil. Thanks for sharing.
Consider becoming a channel member for exclusive features like loyalty badges, early access to new videos, funny stuff like rough cuts and bloopers, members only photos and status updates on the community tab, and members only livestream chat. On desktop, use the join button next to the subscribe. On mobile, use the join link in the description.
Alright guys, well, do this next. Click on one of these thumbnails to learn a ton more about TRT and hormone optimization. Thanks.